What is up, guys and gals, and welcome back to the D4A channel. So today is the big day, and today I'm revealing to you the newest addition to the D4A garage, which is this motorcycle right here. But before that, here is our contest winner. So congratulations to you, you guessed correctly that this indeed is a Kawasaki GPZ 750R. So no need for this sheet anymore. And actually, it's not just a GPZ 750R, it's also a piece of junk. So this was a really cheap motorcycle that I got for super cheap, and it's going to be a beginning of I hope, a really cool story. So first off, let's explain the hint. Take My Breath Away minus 150. So you probably guessed, Take My Breath Away is the song by the band Berlin from the movie Top Gun. In that movie, there's a motorcycle. Tom Cruise in Top Gun rides a GPZ 900R. The other part of the hint, minus 150, so GPZ 900R minus 150 makes it a GPZ 750R, which is pretty much an identical motorcycle to the GPZ 900R. It has the same frame, same brakes, same suspension, same everything, except it has 150cc less of engine displacement. So today, I'm going to tell you a few stories. Story number one is, I'll tell you just some brief basic facts about this motorcycle. You can Google it yourself, so I won't take too much of your time with that. The second story I'm going to tell you is how I bought this, because it was a real adventure. The third story I'm going to tell you is going to be a personal story, and it's my relationship with not just motorcycles, but two-wheeled contraptions in general. It's a pathetic and, miserable and embarrassing story, but I'm going to tell it, anyway. I'm not ashamed, I'm going to tell you the story because I'm a big boy and, I like to share things like that. I really don't, but I have to tell you the story, to give you some context about this thing. And the last story I'm going to tell you is not a story, it's going to be a plan, and it's our plan, of what we're going to do with this, motorcycle. Now, don't worry, the first thing I'm going to tell you is that the AW11 is still, the star of the show. There's no reason to be jealous, baby. So, this summer is going to be all about AW11. I have some big plans to make this a really awesome summer, and our little GPZ is going to be a sort of a, sidekick, a sideshow. There's going to be, content on it, but the AW11 is going to be still the star. And this guy has yet, to prove himself of what he can do and whether he can make me, happy. So, story one. So, what is this? So, it's a motorcycle from 1985. So, when Kawasaki released the GPZ 900R in 1985, it was a big deal, because back then that was the fastest road-going motorcycle in the world. Now, these sort of records were frequently broken during the 80s, but it was a big deal for another reason, is that this engine, not this one, but the 900R engine, which is the same engine, just, it's, from what I can read online, it's just a sleeved-down version, the 750 one. So that engine was the first ever dual overhead cam liquid-cooled inline-4 engine on a motorcycle. And on the 900R, that engine makes 150 horsepower. On this thing, it makes 92 horsepower. So this is still a pretty fast sports bike. So, more stuff. So, inline-4, it has a chain drive, and it's really 80s. I really like this design because, there aren't many, bikes out there that are more 80s, So in my garage here, I have a really 80s motorcycle and a really 80s car. So I guess I might be stuck in the 80s. I don't know. I guess I was seeing these kind of things when I was a little boy growing up. So now I'm collecting them, buying them, restoring them, whatever. What else about a motorcycle? It has, basically, carburetors. So I guess I liked bike carbs so much that I actually bought something that comes with bike carbs from the factory instead of mounting them on a, previously fuel injected car engine. So it has 4 Keihin 34mm carbs. What else does it have? Discs, brakes all around. This one is missing front calipers. I'll show you all the bad things about it in a few moments. So that's it. You can Google the rest. Yes, there is one more important thing, is that this isn't the 92 horsepower version. I have a motorcycle from Switzerland. Now, bikes in the 80s, when they went to Switzerland, they all had less power than in other markets because they had to meet emissions and noise regulations that Switzerland had in the 80s. So, because this thing is from Switzerland, it has like 60 something horsepower, so a lot less. Now, I have no idea how it was reduced. I'm guessing it's, chain sprockets or maybe, the ignition coils. Or I have no idea how they reduced the horsepower. If you're from Switzerland, if you know your bikes, if you know how it was reduced, I would really appreciate that information in the comments section. Thank you in advance. So, I have researched a bit, but I have no idea how they reduced the power. So, it's from Switzerland. Now, I do not intend to get that power back to 92 horsepower because 60 something horsepower is more than enough for me for the beginning, and I'll tell you later why. Actually, I'll tell you right now. My experience with motorcycles is basically non-existent. So that brings us to our next story. So the next story I'm going to tell you, actually doing it in a different order than what I said in the beginning of the video. The next story is going to be my relationship with two-wheeled things. So, to tell you that story, we have to go way, way back into the past. We have to rewind back to when I was about 4 or 5 years old. So, back then, I was a pretty irritating kid for one reason, is that I would quit the things that I couldn't master right away. It was a characteristic of mine that I have since abandoned, and I have seen that it's a bad thing, and it's negative, and it, prevents you from having joy in your life. But when I was a kid, I was like that. So when all of the kids were learning how to ride bicycles, I also got a bicycle as a present. And I tried to ride the bicycle. I couldn't do it right away, so I said, I hate this is horrible, this is garbage, I hate bicycles. So that is a crucial point for our story. And at that point, I have convinced myself that I hate bicycles. And I hate everything with 2 wheels because I, wasn't good at it. So basically my love for 2-wheeled contraptions and, my relationship with 2-wheeled things never really, it was never born. It never saw the light of day, and it was like that for, 25 years. So we fast forward to when I was 29. And it was a regular day. I remember I was walking around and I realized, I saw a person driving a motorcycle passing down the street. It was I think some sort of Kawasaki Ninja, something super modern and fast, but it sounded pretty nice. And at that moment I realized that during the past, 10, 15 years, I was always looking at motorcycles. Whenever a motorcycle would pass, I would turn around, I would listen to the engine, I would try to see what kind of a motorcycle it was. But whenever I would do that, in my subconscious, I would convince myself that, you don't like motorcycles, you're a car guy, drop it, you're gonna die, they're lame, forget it, you can't ride, you don't know how to ride a bicycle, And I would just, do these things in my head, and I would just ignore motorcycles. But then, I was 29 or so, and I realized I've been lying to myself this whole time. Motorcycles are awesome. Bicycles are really cool too. And I want to give it a go. I should give it a go. You only live once, and if I don't try it, I mean, I'm an idiot. I mean, everybody knows how to ride a bicycle. I should at least learn how to ride a bicycle. And you know, if I'm any good at it, I'm old, I'm almost 30, but I should give it a try. I mean, if people can skydive when they're like 70, I can learn how to drive a bicycle and maybe even a motorcycle, you know. Let's see what happens. So, and this is the embarrassing part of the story, I learned how to ride a bicycle. And I was 29 and I was taught how to ride by my wife. We took one of those rental bicycles you can, you know, pick up from the street with a cell phone app. And there was me making little circles right behind a shopping mall, and my wife was sitting there with a face, you know, like this. And, you know, people passing by were looking at me super weird. And there was me, this 29-year-old person, full adult, doing the shimmy on a bicycle, trying to keep my balance. But this time around, I wasn't that same 4-year-old idiot brat. This time, I kept going, you know, I soldiered on, and I learned how to ride a bicycle. So this is me the very next year in Thailand on a little adventure, you know, with an excursion, tourist excursion company, riding a motorcycle right through the Thai jungle. And it was awesome, and I was happy that I learned how to ride a bicycle. Now I'm still not very good at riding a bicycle. I have very little experience, you know, compared to everybody else. They have their whole lifetime. I have about 2 years of experience riding a bicycle, but I'm good enough. I ride it on a daily basis during summer. So when I learned how to ride a bicycle, I thought, you know, I should give motorcycles a try too. They're really cool. I mean, they epitomize freedom. I mean, you're basically, look, you're sitting on an engine. I mean, there's no AC, there's no wipers, there's no nothing. It's pure freedom and simplicity. You're sitting on something really fast that can take you anywhere, you know, and it's really cool, and it sounds too, you know, awesome, and it's cool. Motorcycles are cool. So I decided to give it a try, and I went to get my motorcycle license. Now, I got my motorcycle license on a 150cc Vespa. I think it's 125, 150, I don't know. It's this. It's the PX something, I have no idea. You know, it's a horrible little scooter. It's a 2-stroke scooter with 12 horsepower, and you change the gears with your left hand. This is the clutch, and these are the gears. This is 1, and then you go 2, 3, 4. And the whole bike, you know, maybe was in a bad condition, I have no idea. It was a pain to ride it, it was horrible, you know, and this gear change thing was horrible, but I got my motorcycle license. I got it on a rainy day, and to be honest, getting a motorcycle in this part of Europe is a bit easier than I think in the rest of the world. Basically, the test is you pass around some cones, you do a zigzag pattern between cones, you do a go, and then you have to stop on a white line, and then you do maybe 15 minutes in traffic. And that's the whole exam, and it's not really that hard to pass it. There aren't really any advanced motorcycle safety driving schools, anything like that. People get their license, and with that license, I can ride whatever I want. I can ride a 1200cc, you know, 200 horsepower motorcycle if I wanted to, despite the fact that I only have ever ridden a 2-stroke 12 horsepower Vespa. So I guess that's what the law is, and that's what the, you know, how the law is here. So I have a motorcycle license, and I can ride whatever I want. So I decided to go and buy a motorcycle, and I bought this because I think it looks cool. Now, here's the weird thing. This is turning out to be a really long video with a bunch of stories, so just bear with me. It's all gonna make sense in the end. Now, I got this because I liked it. Now, this bike is pretty valuable. And it's valuable because it has papers. Now, this part of the world, which is the Balkans, which is the Southeast Europe, we're in Bosnia, but the situation is very similar in Croatia, Serbia, and all these other countries, actually ex-Yugoslavian countries. Now, what people would do, they would usually buy a motorcycle, and because the technical inspection and registration and everything is kind of expensive for motorcycles, a lot of people chose to just ride them, you know, and hope they wouldn't be pulled over by the police. Now that is possible when you have a motorcycle and you drive it, you know, in a remote village somewhere, or on a ranch, or on a farm, or somewhere in some village where there isn't a lot of traffic police. And many good motorcycles ended up in places like that. This is one of those motorcycles. Now, motorcycles like that would never get registered. People would just sell them from one person to another person. And you know, you give me basically a bit of cash, I give you a motorcycle. Eventually, the papers would get lost. So finding old motorcycles that have papers is almost, it's not impossible, but it's really hard. Now this one has a really weird story. So moving on to our next story is how I bought this motorcycle. So my initial plan was to buy something a lot smaller, with a lot less power, you know, that isn't as big or as heavy as this, you know, something that isn't a scooter, but you know, isn't this. But so I was looking at motorcycles, I was Googling, you know, images, and I saw the GPZ 900R and I fell in love. I had to have it. It was, when I imagine a motorcycle, this is what I imagine, you know. It's a shape and form that is very close to, you know, whatever I feel a need to own, I guess. So I was looking at ads, you know, in Bosnia, which is a tiny country and there's very little motorcycles to choose from, and I was typing in 900R, you know, whatever. So I couldn't find it. And then I found an ad that just said Kawasaki on it. So it looked kind of nice. The photo was horrible, like a cell phone photo. You could see like this part of the motorcycle, you couldn't see what it is, but I clicked on it. And I saw, oh my god, it's a 900R. So I called the guy, you know, selling it. It's not a 900R, it's a 750R. So I researched 750R and I said, fine, it's the same thing, looks great. So I wanted to buy it. And I asked him, does it have papers? Because my intention isn't to evade the law. My intention is for the motorcycle to be mechanically sound, to pass technical inspection, to have papers so I can enjoy it freely. And he says, it has papers. But here's the deal. The motorcycle was imported into the country in 2003. Now, it was imported, and that is really important, and all the customs and everything else was paid. But the motorcycle was never registered. So it never had Bosnian plates, it was never registered, and it never passed technical inspection in the country. And the person that imported it, you know, the law sees the person that imported it as the actual owner of the motorcycle. Now that person that imported it has since 2003 sold the bike to another person. That person sold it to another person. And that person sold it to the guy selling the bike in the ad. So the only way for me to be able to register the motorcycle was to find the original importer who imported the motorcycle and to sign basically a sales contract with that person. That is going to enable me to register the motorcycle one day. So I asked the guy, you know, can you send me pictures of the papers so I can see the name and surname, you know, of who imported the motorcycle? So I can stalk the internet to try and find that person. So I went through Facebook, through whatever. Okay, so the camera ran out of memory card, so let's keep going with the story. I also put some lighting, so we're all good now. So what I did is then I looked at Facebook and everywhere else, and I looked at all the people in the country with that name and surname, the same name and surname as the dude who imported the motorcycle back in 2003. And whenever I could find a phone number, I would call the person. And it was a really weird phone call. It was like, hey, did you import a Kawasaki GPZ 750R back in 2003? Which is now 16 years ago. And usually people would just tell me, you know, buzz off, and would hang up. I never imported any sort of motorcycle. Who are you? You know, and so on. But after a bunch of phone calls, I got in touch with a person who told me, no, I didn't import a motorcycle, but in this city, there lives a guy with the same name and surname as me who did. So I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Do you by any chance have the phone number of that guy? He says, yes, I'll give it to you. And he gives me the phone number. So I call that guy and he answers the phone. And I say, hi, did you import the motorcycle? And he says, yes, but I'm on my way to the hospital right now. My brother's wife is having a baby. You know, she's giving birth as we speak, so please call in a few days. And he hangs up. So I wait, you know, 5 days, and I call back. He answers again. And I said, is there any possibility for me to come, you know, to where you live and where the motorcycle is? Turned out to be the same city. So, but it is across the, you know, at the other end of the country, some 400 kilometers away. So I say, I want to come and buy that motorcycle from the guy who owns it now, but I need to sign, you know, a contract with you, a sales contract, in order to be able to register the motorcycle. He says, sure, it's not a problem, but if you can come Monday next week, because I'm gone after that, I'm going, you know, to work. And he works as a truck driver, and when he leaves on Monday, he won't come, you know, for another 2.5 months. So I have like 5 days, super short notice to, you know, get something, you know, to hold the bike over. It won't fit in any of my cars, obviously, so I need a van or a truck or something. So I call the people, you know, that do this sort of services, and they'll give me really expensive prices to go pick up a motorcycle and bring it back. It's far away, so the prices are like $400, $500, $600 to do that. The bicycle costs 250 euros, which is like $280 or so, which is dirt cheap, and paying more for the transport doesn't really make sense. So what I managed to do is, the only thing I could find that was available and wasn't expensive and that I could borrow was a Volkswagen Caddy. So I could have it on Monday, and it was basically free. So I say, let's do it. This bike is 202.2 meters long. The loading, the cargo bay of the Caddy is 1.8 meters. But I said, what the heck, I'll find a way, let's go. So I took the Caddy, I drove all the way across the country, and I picked up the motorcycle. I met with the guy, signed the contract, gave the owner the cash, and I loaded up the motorcycle. So here's some footage of me, the owner, and a bunch of his friends and family loading up the motorcycle into the Caddy. So this whole front tire, this is how the thing was loaded in. The front tire was hanging out. So what I did is, it was winter, it's still winter. So out there in the open, I removed all of these plastics. We pushed the motorcycle in. I closed the door as much as I could. And before that, I got a lot of styrofoam to protect it. And I closed the door as much as I could. And then I got 2 tow straps and, you know, closed the door, held the door shut by strapping the door down. And I went on a 400-kilometer drive back home. So every 5 or 10 kilometers or so, I would stop just to check whether everything was okay. It was a pretty safe and secure setup, but I never did anything like this ever, transporting a motorcycle in a Caddy. I mean, whoever did something that stupid, but it was okay, it was safe. I came back home and I unloaded a motorcycle, and I became a owner of a motorcycle. This brings us to my actual plan with this thing. So, first of all, to tell you about the plan, I have to tell you about the condition of the motorcycle. And the condition is horrible. So, let me pick up the camera and show you everything. Okay, bear with me. We're removing the camera from the tripod. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna get some light. So, details about the motorcycle. The motorcycle does not have any sort of front calipers. So the kid who sold me the motorcycle, he's a kid, I think he even has a license. He rode it around without any front brakes. So definitely a very smart and safe person. So no front calipers. So I will need to, of course, for the bike to be able to pass technical inspection, I will need to source some front calipers. So some helpful information you can provide me. If you know calipers from what other motorcycles fit on this motorcycle, I would really appreciate that, because finding these exact same calipers is so far turning out to be pretty hard. So more details about the bike. This thing, this brake lever has been bent. And as you can see from the damage here on the fairings, it is obvious somebody dropped the motorcycle. More dropping evidence right here. As you can see, this is heavily scratched. And you can see here, also heavily scratched. So definitely dropped on this side. Okay, more awesome details. The motorcycle does not have any sort of rear view mirrors, and it doesn't have front indicators. Somebody thought it was a good idea to remove the front indicators, you know, and basically delete them. Definitely a smart person, yet again, because who needs indicators on a motorcycle? Why would you want to show, you know, someone the direction of where you're going when you're in traffic? Because obviously you have, you know, the least risk, because everybody else is driving massive little, you know, crossovers and SUVs, and you're in this, and they should not know where you're going. So definitely smart. Rear view mirrors, who needs that? The visor, let's paint it black so it looks cooler, and so we can't see shit through the visor. So, I mean, stuff like this is pissing me off, and I was thinking whether I should even buy it, but I have a thing for rescuing junk from the 80s, so we are going to make this a nice, normal motorcycle that you can enjoy. More details, big ass dent on the tank right here. And this is my favorite one. So this is the shifter. I don't know if you can see how it was repaired. I think you can see it right now. It was repaired with a hose clamp. Okay? So, I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. And when I talked to the kid who sold me the motorcycle, he says, you know, I did a lot of work on it. I fixed the shifter lever myself. I swear to God, this is what he told me. And I come there, I drive 400 kilometers, and I see this. And I asked him, is this the fix? And he's all super proud and tells me, yes, I fixed that myself. Now it works. So yeah, it has rear brakes, rear calipers, that's all good. And what else? That's pretty much it, I think. So the bike isn't running. I would like to, you know, start it and show you how it runs. But the owner told me that the carbs are leaking fuel everywhere. So I imagine the fault valve is probably stuck. But I now know my way around a bunch of motorcycle CV carburetors. So doing an overhaul on these shouldn't be too complicated. They are K-Hin 34mm CV carbs, very similar to the 36.5mm ones on my 4AG engine, which is now a storage unit. So that is the motorcycle. Let's give it one more look. Despite of all of these flaws, I still think that it's beautiful, and I'm looking forward to getting it into proper, sound, safe, mechanical condition. So if you watched this video up to this point, I have to say, you're a real hero. Now I'm gonna explain to you why this video is this long. I could have made this a 5-minute video. I show you the motorcycle, I show you what's wrong with it, and I tell you the goal is to get it running again. But I told you my personal story about motorcycles because I want you to understand that I have zero experience with motorcycles. I told you my story of how I bought this thing because I want you to understand the great lengths I went to get the motorcycle I really want. Now, I told you both of these stories because I also want you to understand that this isn't another, motorcycling vlog. It's not gonna be that. This isn't another series of videos about a motorcycle getting chopped up and turned into a cafe racer. It's also not gonna, happen. What this is a beginning of a real life adventure. This is the beginning of an adventure of someone who has zero experience with motorcycles but wants to get into motorcycles. And that's exactly the type of person that can relate with this adventure. And the cool thing is that we're going to document all of the steps. We're going to document how I bring this thing into a rideable, sound mechanical condition. We're going to document the first time I ride this thing. We're going to document whether I miserably fail and fall. We're going to document whether, I like motorcycles. We're going to document how someone that never rode a motorcycle feels like when they start riding motorcycles. So it's going to be an adventure, that I hope you join me on this adventure. And if you want to get into motorcycles, if you're interested, it's gonna be super fun. If you're an experienced motorcyclist, it's probably gonna be fun for you as well, because you get to see, get to relive maybe some of your first moments with motorcycles. So I think I have talked way more, than it's appropriate for a single video. So now I'm gonna shut up. I hope I haven't bored you to death. I hope you, liked this video at least a little bit and, heard some interesting stories. If you have, as always, if you have any sort of questions, if you want to share some of your adventures, I would really like to see that in the comments section. And yeah,